This is the future.
And how hackers are stealing such a large amount of money without being noticed.
Great question, Deepak. So we've been talking about it, and this is a question for today's age that so much of money is being stolen by synthetic fraud, and what can we do to stop it? So, but how is it happening? Like you talked about, so data privacy and synthetic fraud are both related subjects. If the data cannot be stolen, synthetic fraud cannot be inflicted. Why is it linked? Because data privacy helps reduce data breaches, and it protects the PII data, which is necessary to create synthetic identities, which is also known as Frankenstein identities. Frankenstein identity means it's a fake identity. It is my name. It's Commodore Sharma's Aadhaar card number. It's Damodar Sahu's PAN card number. It is somebody else's home address. It's somebody else's phone number, email ID. Using AI algorithms, hackers write this data. After they breach the data, they collect this data, or they buy it off of the dark web. They write these AI algorithms to create fake identities, and they create millions and millions of them. They apply for credit cards, they apply for bank account numbers, they do wire fraud, they do terrorism funding, they do all kinds of other activities to steal. Two of the largest examples around the world, PPP loans, which was a multi-trillion-dollar loan the federal government in US started, $232 billion were stolen by creating fake companies. So imagine to what extent these hackers can go to perfect the act of creating Frankenstein identities, which look so real and feel so real, they actually open bank accounts so the money can be taken into the bank account. Then what they do is they bounce it off of 300 different servers around the globe, and the money ends up primarily in Eastern Europe, because synthetic fraud originates from Eastern Europe, and many of those countries have perfected the act. Sometime back in 2018, I went to Estonia, which is an Eastern European country. Tallinn is the capital. Tallinn has thousands of universities where hacking is taught, and also they teach how to create synthetic identities. These are funded by the mob syndicate from the Eastern European countries. Mobs are not finding it interesting enough to do all the previous activities that they used to do. Synthetic fraud is such a large industry. In 2023, $3 trillion was stolen, and more than 10 trillion, if nothing is being done about it, more than $10 trillion will be lost by the end of 2025.
Wonderful. So Ramesh, if you can throw, as India embraces and marches towards its digital journey with the startups leading from the front, there is also a critical need for a security check. What do you will say on it?
Well, thanks, Deepak. I think the topic sums it, growing cybercrime challenges in India. One of the things that I work on is largely on ease. And by ease, we mean ease of living, ease of doing business, ease of kind of continuing your life, ease of access to mobility, everything. And if you look at the generation of today, they want everything on the swipe of a screen or a click of a button. Gone are those days when people used to physically come out and do things. The connected world has made it very possible for having an ease in your life. And with this growing ease is a growing concern of the fact that as India is racing fast, we have a good collaboration of government, citizens, and industry working together to live a connected life. In fact, if you go back, we were the first to automate government to citizens on range of areas. Businesses actually D2C is happening now, direct to customer. We always had B2B because the D2C was a physical world for us. You used to go to the kirana shop, you used to hail the cab, you used to go to the hotel and pack your own food. But now government moved ahead, so government to citizen services happened faster. I remember when I was part of AP government, eSeva was the first which connected citizens with the government. But here is the catch. India is rapidly digitizing. And with digitizing, there is a comfort factor that all of us are getting used to. The part that we need to fix quickly is the security, as Deepak rightly asked that question. If there is no security, all of this trust that we are blindly rushing towards of transacting online, the day it gets broken, we will be for chaos. Because we are getting used to this new lifestyle of living in a connected environment where right from your travel tech to mobility tech to food tech to delivery tech to edu tech, everything is digitized. The moment one of us experiences breach and our trust is broken that day, it is a big danger point, not only for the startup ecosystem, the investor ecosystem that I represent, but also for the entire country. And more so, if you look at from the government standpoint, the government is also building the digital public infrastructure. Whether you take your UPI, you take your ONDC, everything that the government is pushing from an industry standpoint to go into the digital world, all of that is a kind of a security checkpoint. And one other thing I will conclude on this particular question. 20 years back, we have been discussing on critical infrastructure protection. Today, we transact on the banking system digitally. We transact booking our tickets digitally. We are, getting all our services digitally. All this data is sitting in different places. An attack on one of them is something that can completely break this trust factor. And therefore, as India is rapidly digitizing fast, it needs to secure it faster. Now, I for one have not been a great supporter of security in the physical world, because I always believe that a terrorist, you go to the airport, all of us go through frisking because one odd guy would try to break in. None of us are going to the airport to hijack a plane. But we are all getting frisked because there is one guy who is intending to hijack the plane. And therefore, as increasing threat perception increases, our independence comes down. The ease at which we are digitized is giving us ease, but one threat factor can actually break this whole bubble out, and we have to be very careful about it.
Wonderful. Sudhir, you spoke about Frankenstein identity, and you have learned from the Estonia, or your experience of 30 plus years. I want to ask a difficult question. How do the hackers create Frankenstein identities that lead to synthetic fraud? Can you give some example?
Yeah, I'll give you some global scenarios, use cases, as well as I'll give you some in India. So let's take your name. Your name is Deepak Sahu, or somewhere you say Dr.Deepak Sahu. You have a home address, you have email ID, phone number, and your son is how old as of now?
21.
21. Your second son is how old?
17.
17. Does he have a credit card?
No.
No. So he is called alertless. If somebody steals his Aadhaar card, takes your name, takes Ramesh's home address, my email ID, and writes an AI algorithm, can create a new identity out of it. The reason why they steal the school system, they generally hack into the school system to steal data which will relate to an Aadhaar card, PAN card number, or any number that a student has, and is below 18, doesn't have a credit profile, makes it easy, because when you apply for a credit card using that Aadhaar card number, it will stay alertless. Nobody will come to know that a new credit card has been created in this name, or a new bank account has been created to create this kind of Frankenstein identities. But this is happening at massive scale. By writing AI programs, they can create as much of data that they steal, they combine it, and they multi-use it, and within 10 minutes, I have seen these hackers writing the program and creating millions of Frankenstein identities in less than 10 minutes.
Wonderful. So Ramesh, I have a question like phishing scams, ransomware attacks, data breaches, cyber-related industrial espionage seems to be progressively rising. What is your view on India's fintech sector?
Well, again, fintech is the backbone of everything that is happening today in the country. The reason why I was part of a .com company way back in 1999. And the reason why we did not succeed was there was no closure happening through a the finance payment perspective. today if you look at, as I said in my previous response to the previous question, the entire backbone of the payment system is what is driving all transactions across e-commerce, across mobility, across travel tech, insurance tech, all of it. And finance sector therefore is like the backbone. If you hurt that financial sector, the rest of the body collapses in a way because there will be chaos in the market. And if you look at the data, last year RBI has published this data from January to October. And they have said about 1 million attacks have happened on the fintech sector. These are recorded, disclosed attacks. As I think the previous session we saw, and you also mentioned, that this is the data which is published. Now, the unpublished data will run into, now again, if you look at, if you don't publish your attack, I as a customer is very happy that, okay, my trust is not broken. But then my trust gets broken when from you it comes out somewhere in the market. So if you look at that data, RBI said 1 million attacks from January to 1 million plus. The number is something like 12 lakhs or something, which turns out to 4,500 attacks per day, which is published on the financial sector. Now, that kind of threat is because global players are attacking us. Now, look at the percentage. The Singapore-based firm which came out with the data on attacks on India says India is #1 in terms of cyber attacks in the last 2 years.
Correct.
72% of that attacks on India. Global average is 68%. But 72% of that attacks on India is coming from state-sponsored actors. Which means that now our borders are peaceful, our cities are peaceful. Now we have borderless attacks. And that borderless attacks is primarily targeted at fintech sector. Other sectors, of course, we have had instances of health, and we had the case ICMR and 𝐜𝐡𝐚 which are in public. But borderless attacks on fintech sector is the striking point for us, because the day anything happens to our monies, we lose trust. And that can break the whole thing. And therefore, to your point, fintech sector has to be protected, financial sector has to be protected. And more importantly, it is like we built a house, we put a small lock. Till we are attacked, we won't put a security guard or a camera. I think we have always lived in that comfort factor, even in running businesses, including startups.
You are right. Today, Dr. Gulshan Rai spoke about there are reported 750 crore loss per day, but the actual figure is more than 1,000 crore rupees loss per day in a day. Okay, it's a huge. So, having said that, Sudhir, I have a last question for you. Why banks cannot spot early signs of synthetic fraud? How will it affect the Indian banking system and India as a country?
Yeah, they can't, because it's very difficult to track it. Because it looks like a real customer is using a credit card, and the hackers are also very smart. The first opportunity that they have, they are not going to steal the money. They will use the credit card, they will use a personal loan, they will use an auto loan, boat loan, any kind of a loan that they are applying for, and they will keep on making payments. What they wait for is something called a bust out score. What's a bust out score? Every country, based on how much population, how much of success they are having, they define if the number reaches there, only then we will steal and run away. So until that time, they stay very calm and quiet. They will use those accounts, they will make the payments, and they will look like a real customer. So the banks have no way of knowing who is a real customer and who is not, like Ramesh talked about, right? Everything is digitized these days. You are not touching the person is not walking into a branch to say that I am who I am. And any number of people can create a fake identity calling Sudhir Sahu and create a Aadhaar card number that has not been used before, and open a bank account, and the bank will not come to know about it. So using AI and data depth and data consistency, banks can engage products and solutions that will help identify who is a Frankenstein identity and who is a real customer. Now, data depth and data consistency meaning that when somebody opens an account, who is this individual, how much of data that we have about this individual, and how consistently we are finding this data to be relevant, or is it changing? Those are anomalies, and those anomalies, capturing those anomalies out of usage pattern and payment patterns. You know, who is making this payment? Where is this shipment going? There's a lot of these millions and millions of algorithms that you write, and you collect all this data, and you create the insight by looking at the depth of the data, meaning this individual says, I have been operating as an individual for this long of a period of time, and then you compare that, and is it matching? And when somebody is applying for a credit card or a bank account or etc., IP address tracking. And the individual says, I live here in Delhi, but the IP address shows it's coming from Hong Kong. So that should be a red flag. But today, banks do not have that infrastructure. They don't have the ability. So they need products and solutions that can track this activity.
Good. So you mean to say that hackers are they are staying in our computer or laptop or whatever the computing devices as a sleeper cell?
Yes.
Wonderful. So Ramesh, I have a question for you. What steps is government taking to secure digital India?
Well, government has started a number of initiatives. I would say these are baby steps in the right direction. One is, of course, making people aware. There is an awareness program that the 𝐜𝐡𝐚𝐭 has launched, which is primarily targeted at people. There are initiatives where government has tried to push the concept of cyber swachhata, which is to say maintain cyber hygiene. Today, if you look at the access points for anything on data is as retail as the phone that you hold in your hand. And therefore, the access point for attack is also as retail as you hold. It has got democratized more. The attacks have not been restricted to just one server or anything. It has got more democratized. They are also having the ease of access. So therefore, the government also has identified, by the way, critical infrastructure protection. As I said, the earlier part was securing critical infrastructure, whether it is banks, oil, ports, railways, what you call heritage sites and so on. But that was originally from the physical standpoint, where you put a fence, you put a guard, you put a security camera. Now it has also got digital, because your power grids can be taken off, your bank system can be crippled, your ports can be disabled, your hospitals can be disabled, your pensions can be affected. I can delay your, as somebody from the services will relate to what I'm saying, which is currently the problem. But
Sparse.
Yes. So therefore, the government has realized that it is critical. How much of the steps that it has taken to secure, I think that's the part where the government needs to focus, because the entire energies of the government for the last few years have gone into a wonderful aspect, which is moving and pushing digitization in a big way. So we are a well-digitized economy. Are we a digitally secure economy? I think that is the part we need to fix quickly. And government is taking steps in this regard, but more importantly, I think with this announcement of this innovation fund and so on for technological companies and so on, I think what is important now is that the new age problems have to be fixed by new age thinking people. And therefore, it also opens up the box for a lot of new age emerging startups who are working in security space to come out and create India-specific solutions which can be taken to the world. Today, you see the government proudly taking DPI, which is UPI and so on, to the world. I think it's time for us to also secure those new innovations that we have created and take it to the world. And I think there, India needs to collaborate with the world and also collaborate with Indians who are building great stuff.
Good.
People like Sudhir and others are a welcome addition to that crowd of people.
So I will give you one example. There is one state in our country. Up to September, the reported cases was only 10,000 financial fraud. They created awareness, massive campaigning to report the cases. In October, November, December, what would be the reported cases? Can anyone guess? In one state, 4.2 million cases reported. It's eye-opening. I don't want to name the state. Let's thank you, my panelists, for joining the session. Thank you.